The Leader of the House on a point of order. Mr Speaker.
Well, let's go to our female talented, knowledgeable and experienced women. Concetta Fierravanti-Wells, the most impressive performer. She joins us. Tanya Plibersek can't be with us tonight, so we welcome back the plain-speaking Meryl Swanson. She won't mind me reminding you that her electorate is in coal country, Patterson, in the Hunter Valley. It used to be a coalition seat. A couple of months ago, she told her party room, who were drowning in rhetoric about renewable energy, to, quote, stop scaring the shit out of the coal industry workers. The electorate love her. She speaks her mind. Welcome to you both. Concetta, can I come to you on this coronavirus alarmism? And I don't want to dwell upon it too much, but there's been a long-standing problem at airports where officially registered hire car drivers have work taken from them by other unregistered drivers, and it's never been policed. Now we've got a limousine driver, unvaccinated, ferrying international crew. Now, I'm opposed to all this mask wearing because the mask can be made of anything and dragged out of the back seat of the glove box. But if officially registered hire car drivers must be vaccinated and wear masks, how is anyone at the international airport able to pick up anybody, whether crew or passenger? My question to you, Concetta, who is supervising and policing this stuff?
Well, Alan, my understanding is that surely somebody who's a limousine driver should be vaccinated, and I think that this reinforces the point that the states need to be very acutely aware of who should and shouldn't be vaccinated. And so, absolutely, I just think that this is
but no one's policing this stuff.
Again.
This bloke was these people are just usurping the work of officially registered hire car drivers, and away they go. I mean, Meryl, all Gladys Berejiklian could say was that the government will act as we are presented with the facts. I mean, how long does it take to establish the facts? As I understand it, the bloke wasn't an accredited driver. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the fact. What are we doing about it?
Look, Alan, that's a great question, and we've been trying to get to the bottom of this as well. I even spoke to Mark Butler about it this evening, and he said, look, that's part of the problem. We just don't have enough information. But, Alan, can I just make one point very clear to you? These people are shuttling people who have come in via our international borders. Now, Scott Morrison, just a few years ago, was the very person who stood up and was very proud of keeping our borders as tight as Tupperware. How now can he say that is not his responsibility? Really, it is a Commonwealth responsibility. Who comes into those international borders, those drivers should be policed very carefully.
Absolutely. Well, let me come back to you again. I mean, this was a question today in the Parliament from Mark Butler to the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's response. Listen to this.
A driver of international aircrew who is reportedly unvaccinated and unmasked is at the centre of the New South Wales outbreak. Does he now take any responsibility for the Sydney outbreak?
Vaccination of those workers in quarantine is the responsibility of state governments. The doses were available, Mr Speaker, and in this case that worker was not vaccinated.
Meryl, is that a satisfactory answer?
No, Alan, it clearly isn't. And look, apart from what I just said then about Scott Morrison being very proud of his former work on international borders, the other point about this is that we now have a national cabinet. The Prime Minister has said that collaboration is incredibly important. I just do not believe that he can now diversify away from that and say, oh, but that's up to the states, this is up to us. Really, he should be working collaboratively. Gladys Berejiklian, honestly, is doing everything she can, in my opinion. And I'm actually quite defensive of her in many ways because I think she has worked very hard. But the Prime Minister really, you know, the buck stops with him, and he has got to work with them. Let
me come to Concetta. Concetta, shouldn't the Prime Minister be full bottle on the issue and then say, I'm not satisfied with what's obviously been very slack monitoring of limousine drivers. I have demanded an answer, and I'll report back to the House that these loopholes be closed. I mean, isn't that an appropriate answer instead of just passing the buck?
Well, I think, Alan, as Meryl said, the National Cabinet was supposed to deal in a cooperative manner in relation to these issues. Now, the public is really not interested in spats between the Commonwealth and the states. They are interested in, one, getting vaccinated, and all people that should be vaccinated getting vaccinated, and more to the point, opening up the borders so we can get on with our lives.
Absolutely.
And so and that's really where
can I come
really
to that
need
point?
to put the foot on the gas here.
Concetta, can I go to that point in relation to vaccination? Now, Sydney, here we are in this episode here. Greater Sydney can't go anywhere, and they've been locked out from every state in Australia. There are people who are fully vaccinated here in Sydney. Fully vaccinated. They can't go anywhere, and they're shut out of every state when they've done everything asked of them. Concetta, why wouldn't they say, well, to hell with this blasted vaccination? What's the purpose of being vaccinated? Concetta.
Well, Alan, it's a catch-22, because if we don't get vaccinated, then we can't plan the roadmap out of the pandemic.
But why should we lock up those who are?
With our lives.
Why should we lock up those who are?
Well, this is the whole point, Alan, and I think that Dr Coatsworth and others have said this. The reality is we need to learn to live with this virus. It will mutate, just like the flu mutates every year. And so, therefore, we need to mitigate. Yes, by all means, get vaccinated, but we cannot continue with a Fortress Australia mentality.
No.
We have to plan a roadmap
I agree,
out of this.
But that's not quite my point. Meryl, if I come to you, why get vaccinated when you still are locked up in Greater Sydney this week? There are people who've got fully vaccinated.
I'll tell you why, Alan. I'll answer your question. There are two reasons why you get vaccinated. The first one is you don't want to get sick and die, obviously. Yep. The second one is because you're actually performing your community duty. Now, look, I can't help but think my dad had polio, Alan, and it's something that's stuck with me forever. Now, we get people vaccinated against things like rubella and polio because we want to stop it. We want to get herd immunity, of course, but we want to stop it across our communities. So people need to be vaccinated. But you have got a good point. If you're fully vaccinated, why can't you have freedom?
Absolutely.
And the other thing is the world will be moving ahead, Alan. We can't afford to be left behind. And I am desperately concerned about that. As Connie rightly said, we need to be able to get on with our lives. I'm concerned that many other countries will be opening up and they'll be getting all the visitors and their economies will be growing and we will be laggards.
Absolutely. Meryl, to you first. The Great Barrier Reef stories this week that the China-chaired UNESCO World Heritage Committee has moved to downgrade the Barrier Reef's official health classification without any consultation or any on-the-ground verification. We're going to have an uphill battle to overturn an in-danger listing at a World Heritage Committee in China next month because 14 of the body's 21 members have signed up to Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. I want to look at that issue separately, but not tonight. But can I ask you first, Meryl, very quickly, 3 years ago, the failed Malcolm Turnbull gave $444 million to the Great Barrier Reef Foundation without even having to go through a tender process, the largest donation that any Australian government has made to a single foundation, a foundation which I might add was floated by a small group of businessmen at an airport who were waiting for a flight. Can you, Meryl, tell us what work the foundation has done and what's happened to the money?
Look, Alan, I'm going to be honest with you. I cannot tell you. I've got no clue. But just on the UNESCO thing, very briefly, 64,000 people rely on that reef for jobs. We have got to protect those jobs, people who work on the reef. And the government needs to take charge of this UNESCO situation and tell us what they're doing about it.
Or mount an international campaign to verify that everything is OK and people are telling lies.
Indeed.
But to just you quickly, Concetta, I mean, this outfit foundation, the money was supposed to tackle water quality, crown of thorns starfish, expanding reef restoration. Concetta, your thoughts, where's this money gone?
Well, it's... My understanding is that the Reef 2050 plan, we've invested $3 billion, of which $2 billion is from the Commonwealth. But having said that, Alan, I certainly would like to see an audit of where $440 million is going. Having said that, Alan, the reef is in good condition. And experts like Peter Reid have said this. And let's not forget, this is China playing international politics and I saw what you said earlier, and this is the reality. And so I think that the reef is in good condition, and we have to be conscious, as Meryl said, of the fact that this has been done taking little consideration of the impact that it's going to have on those coastal communities that rely on the reef. And so therefore, we've got to do everything possible to reverse this decision.
Well, we've got to mount a massive international campaign to tell the world you're welcome to come, you'll enjoy what you see, the reef is in terrific condition. Get out there and promote the Great Barrier Reef to the world. Ladies, wonderful to talk to you. Meryl, lovely to have you back. You keep talking and saying it as it is. Your father will be proud of you. And Concetta, thank you so much for the work you do. There
Thanks,
they are.
Alan.
They'll be back next week. We'll take a break and be back after that.
This program is brought to you by Meriton, Australia's apartment leader in quality and design for over 58 years.
From the biggest city to the smallest town.